Welcome back. I see many familiar faces, and I see some new faces as well. So welcome to each and every one. I hope you had a great summer. We did, and I'm grateful. Welcome to Food for Life, Food for Health, sorry. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sheryl McWilliams. I'm a wellness specialist here at Midcoast Parkview Health. And this program, or a version of it, has been ongoing now for a number of years. And so we're grateful for folks who keep coming back and keep learning, and for those who are new and who join us. So we're going to go ahead and get started. A couple things about tonight. It's a little bit different. We have two totally different things going on. One is waffles and jam, and the other is sauerkraut. And we don't necessarily eat those together, just saying. That'd be gross. But let's go ahead and start with the jam. So I do not eat everything organic. I eat many things organic, but I do not eat everything organic. One thing that I always eat organic is soy, corn, apples, and strawberries. So for the purposes of tonight, I made the jam with organic strawberries. Now this particular recipe you can use with any kind of berry. Our family likes it with raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, mixed berries. I made it with strawberries for tonight, but there's no requirement to use strawberries. You can use any kind of berry you like. So what you do is you take a dried pineapple ring, just a regular old-fashioned dried pineapple ring. I will use 2 pineapple rings with 12 to 16 ounces of frozen berries. Okay, so 2 pineapple rings to 12 to 16 ounces, so 2 to about a pound or so, less than a pound. This is what's available locally. This does have a little bit of sugar in it. What I like to use, but don't always have enough of, is just the plain dried pineapple with no sugar whatsoever. It's just a straight up pineapple. Sometimes you can find it, and sometimes you can't. Okay? So here's a pineapple ring. You just tear it, literally tear it into tiny little pieces. And I do try to get them quite small. And I would put this right into a bowl. Just tear it right up into a bowl. Pour my strawberries in, and then I'd cover it and stick it in the refrigerator overnight, because you're using frozen berries, all right? You're using frozen berries, so you've got the pineapple at the bottom, and overnight those berries are defrosting and they are softening that pineapple. Does that make sense? Okay? And then when I'm ready to make my jam in the morning, all I do is stick it into my blender. Easy peasy. I try to keep it as simple and plain as possible. So I like more natural the better. And then I whiz it. Hold your ears, this thing is not very exciting. And that's all there is to it. You're going to come out with strawberry jam. Okay, you want to keep this in your refrigerator. Definitely it needs to be refrigerated, all right? This does not last long in my house, honestly. What I used tonight, for tonight, was 3 pounds of frozen strawberries, and that made 2 quarts of jam, okay? So you can see how much it makes. It makes quite a bit. I have frozen it if I haven't had much left over, if I've made a large quantity because I'm having lots of people over, or I'm going somewhere where there's a big potluck and maybe I'm using it as a dip. You can use it as a dip. You can use it as a sauce over your waffles. You can use it as jam on your sandwiches. Maybe you're making a fruit pizza. Okay, it can be the sauce for your fruit pizza. It's yummy, yummy, yummy. And there's no added sugar to it. It's truly just pineapple and your berry, all right? So that is the jam. It's hard to get easier than that, right?
How long will that last in the refrigerator?
Longer than it's going to take you to eat it. You'll eat it. You know, I'd probably say 4 days or so, maybe longer. I've never had it last that long because honestly it's easy. My little one will actually take it and add water to it and drink it. She's a character.
Sheryl?
Yes.
You said something about freezing it.
I'm sorry?
You said something about freezing it.
Yes. There have been occasions when I've had, a little bit left over, and I'll just stick it into a freezer container and freeze it, and then I take it out. When I have done that, which is very rarely because it truly does get eaten in our families, I have taken it out of the freezer, let it defrost it, and I whiz it up real quick because it can separate. So the next thing we're going to make is waffles, and you notice I did not rinse my container out very well. I almost didn't rinse it out at all, but I did so that you can see. Because I'm making waffles, and it's okay if your waffles have a little bit of strawberry puree into it. That just makes it all the better. So you're going to start with your water, and you can use nut milks like soy milk or oat milk, any of those kinds of things if you needed some extra nutrition. Most of us already have extra nutrition, so we don't need to add any more. But my mother-in-law, who I gained weight trying to keep weight on this woman, she's barely 100 pounds. When I cook for her, I get as much goodness in there as I can. So I will use cashew milk or soy milk or something to add calories and fat for her diet. I don't need any of that extra stuff for myself. We'll use a tablespoon of vanilla. I have also used other things. I have skipped the vanilla, and maybe I had a banana that was too ripe on the counter, and instead of using the vanilla, I have used a banana for the flavoring. So it doesn't have to be vanilla.
Almond is very good too, almond flavor.
Yes, for those who like almond flavoring, I can't stand it. I love almonds, I cannot stand almond flavoring. I hate macaroons for that reason. Some kind of sweetener, about a tablespoon of some kind of sweetener. This is going to take forever, so we're going to call it good. I'm using honey tonight. I have used dates, dried dates. About 2 dates is good enough for this recipe. Just soften them up in the water, make the water a little warm and soften them up. That's a nice thing to do. We're going to use a half a teaspoon of salt. This is sea salt, yes ma'am. Why would I use sea salt? You can leave the salt out if you need to. I personally just like a little bit. Now for the fat, you need some kind of fat in here or else it will stick to your waffle line. Alright, gotta have some kind of fat. For those of you who are staying oil-free, which is some of us, you can use nuts. I tend to use walnuts. You can use sesame seeds. You can use sunflower seeds. Walnuts is just something I keep in my refrigerator, and I pull it out and I'll throw a handful in. I will tell you though, sometimes my waffle iron just really needs to be seasoned. So I will use 2 tablespoons of olive oil. If the waffles start sticking, I'll use 2 tablespoons of olive oil the next time I make waffles. So usually I can tell by the time I get to a batch, the last 1 or 2 is sticking. That's my clue that the next time I make waffles, I need to use oil instead of the nuts. Just for one recipe, it seasons the waffle iron, and then I can use it 5 or 6 times, sessions without oil, and that's totally fine. 2 cups of old-fashioned oatmeal. We'll use 2 tablespoons of some kind of flour, always 100% whole grain flour. I happen to be using buckwheat flour tonight. That is gluten-free. And then I use chia seed. In fact, I try to work as much chia seed into my life as possible. It's really good for you. It's got a lot of fiber. It's got some nice omega fats in there. It also serves as a binding agent. So you'll notice that in this recipe there are no eggs, all right, because you don't need them. Now, chia seed, because it has a lot of fiber in it, it soaks up a lot of liquid. So you can use 2 to 4 tablespoons of chia seed in here. But you will need to watch your water content, okay? So, and the atmosphere, honestly, has a little bit to play as well. Just like when you're making bread on a real moist day, the dough is different. Same with this a little bit as you use the chia seed. So I typically use 2 tablespoons in this recipe. If I add more, for each 2 tablespoons, you're adding about a cup of water or so, okay? Did I get everything? I'm going to check the recipe here. We got our oats, our flour, our walnut, salt, vanilla, sweetener, water, and chia seed. That's it.
Did you put extra water in because of the chia seed?
I used 3 cups of water, so I did. Okay. Yep. So this says you can use 1/4 cup of chia seeds plus 1 extra cup of water. I used 2 tablespoons of chia seed to 1 cup of water. Hang on to your ears here. Okay, this takes a little bit to blend. You want to make sure that you're really sort of grinding those oats down. This is it. That's all there is to it. This will make 4 to 6 waffles, depending upon what kind of waffle iron you're using. I get about 6 waffles out of this recipe. I typically, when we make waffles, I've got both irons going. So I'll get usually 3 of these and 2 of the Belgians.
Now, can you freeze those?
You can absolutely freeze these. When I make waffles for my family, I will always double whatever the amount is that we eat. We tend to be big eaters in my family. So I will double or triple or sometimes quadruple the recipe because I can get it done, stick it in the freezer, and it's just like let go my ego. When I want a waffle, I get one out of the freezer and stick it in the toaster oven. So all you do at this point is literally just pour it right into your waffle iron. Oh, please don't tell me that. You know, that's every cook's nightmare is that the bottom's going to come in this. There you go. We'll let that cook while we work on our sauerkraut. How many of you like sauerkraut? Okay, I hate it. Just saying, I hate it. Or I hated it. And now I actually like sauerkraut in the right setting and on the right thing and on the right day. Anyway, so this is a sauerkraut recipe we use at our home. It's there for you to see. Very, very, very simple. I simply whiz up the cabbage. And I do try to use organic cabbage whenever it's available. It's not always available. Obviously, I whizzed up some before you guys got here, just to save time. So, you can chop it by hand, but that's a pain in the neck. So, I'm all about doing things as quickly and conveniently as possible. So this is an organic cabbage, and I'm just doing half the recipe tonight because I could only get my hands on 1 organic cabbage. Now what you're going to do with this It's kind of fun. This is a great thing to do with kids because they enjoy it. You're just going to sprinkle salt on it. So I'm cutting this recipe in half, so I'm going to use about 1.5 tablespoons of salt. And this is where the fun comes. You're going to take the cabbage. You're going to start working it with your hands. You're just going to squish it. Squish it, squish it, squish it. You're working the salt in. My girls really enjoy doing this because they get their frustrations out. It's kind of like making bread, you know? Just squish it, squish it. And as you squish it down, the juices from the cabbage are going to start to come out as that salt works into the cabbage. This does take a little bit of time. This is not a process that you hurry through, okay? So this would be done on a day when you had a little bit of time. It's not hard. The time-consuming part for you is working the cabbage down, okay? You can already see on top here that the cabbage is starting to glisten, that the juices are starting to come out. Oops. You can add other vegetables to this as well. Carrots help. Any of those kinds of things. You can add in some red cabbage, which is nice. It's a basic recipe that you can add other things to. I am starting to feel the juice come through my fingers now, a little bit. You can already see that there is, it's not as tall as it was when it first started, right? So for the sake of time, I won't bore you any further. I would need probably another solid 6 minutes of kneading this to really get the juices flowing, okay? But once it's done, what you're going to do is this. You just put it into whatever container you're going to use. The container must have a lid, all right? It must have a lid. As you work the cabbage, the juice will come up, and you're going to scrape the edges of whatever container you're going to use, and you're going to get it nice and flat such that the liquid covers the entire pieces of cabbage. There's no cabbage sticking out. That is very, very, very important, okay? Because if there's cabbage sticking out, it's just going to rot and get moldy and gross, and that's disgusting, and you don't want to waste your time. If you have a particularly challenging cabbage, and no matter how much you work it, you're just not getting the liquid out of it that you need, you can cheat a little bit by using a solution of 1 teaspoon of salt to 1 quart of water, okay? And you can pour just enough of that, dissolve, just enough of that to cover this. Does that make sense? Your goal is to try to use the natural juices, all right? But if for some reason that's just not working for you, you can mix 1 teaspoon of salt to 1 quart of water and cover that. Let's check on our waffle here. And then what you're going to do is you want some weight on this, okay? So what I use at home is a plate with a ginormous granite rock on it. You want weight on top of this cabbage, okay? Which is going to further cause the juices to come out and cover it. Does that make sense? So you're just going to cover it, let the juices cover it, have no pieces of cabbage sticking out. You're going to put your lid on top, and then you're going to put it away for about 2 weeks, all right? I sit mine in the pantry just so I can keep an eye on it. Some people will sit theirs out in the barn. I know a lady that puts hers in the barn. That's kind of creepy to me. I have sometimes put it down in the cellar. you know. The point is you just want to put it out of the way, typically someplace, you know, where it can just sit and do its thing. And then in about 2 weeks, you'll take it out and you'll have sauerkraut. And you can either eat it right then or you can can it. You can see it's really not that time consuming. The time is involved in it sitting around, all right? Yeah, there's some time spent shredding it, but your gizmo does that, right? You got to work it down a little bit, but then you're pretty much done. And it just sits in your pantry or in your basement or wherever for a couple of weeks while it is fermenting.
So do you only do that if you're not getting enough liquid after
Yes,
pushing all the cabbage?
Yes, you only do that if you're not getting enough liquid. And you do that if you're going to can it. Because if you're going to can it, you need to cover it with a liquid, and that's the liquid that you'll use. All right, so here is your waffle. Ta-da! So there's your whole grain waffle. This one isn't Belgian, but it's very, very, very tasty. And what we do in our family with this is we will spread on some sort of a nut butter. Almond butter, cashew butter. My girls really like almond butter. I make homemade peanut butter sometimes. Some sort of a nut butter. Typically on top of that goes homemade applesauce. And then a sprinkling of pure maple syrup. But it's a great thing, and again, you can freeze it. It's a wonderful thing to freeze, such that, you know, you've got a quick, healthy meal at the tip of your fingers. You can break them apart, right? So this one breaks in fifths. Most of them break in quarters. So if you don't want a whole waffle, well, you can just break half of it and just toast half of it. You don't have to get the whole thing out of the freezer. Does that make sense? Any questions? Oh, you guys are easy. All right, give me about 2 minutes. I'll clean this stuff off and then you can taste some.